Ah, the Tower of Babel, humanity's great attempt to build a stairway to heaven, thwarted by God himself scattering languages like an overzealous Scrabble champion. So unique, right? Wrong. In Genesis 11, 1 through 9 is where humanity gathers to build a tower reaching the heavens, a big middle finger to God's authority. But alas, God, being allergic to competition, says nope, confuses their languages, and scatters everyone. Moral of the story: hubris, bad, God, big. It's a short story with a big moral punch. Unity is dangerous, apparently, because humans are always up to no good. But here's the kicker: this wasn't the first time such a tale was told. Turns out, the Bible's Tower of Babel story isn't the only game in town. It's just the one with the best branding. But wait, long before Genesis was even a scribble in a scroll, we had Enmerkar and the Lord of Arata, a Mesopotamian story dating back to at least 2100 BCE. That's over 1,000 years older than the supposed Tower of Babel scriptures, which scholars estimate were written around the 6th century BCE. In this story, King Enmerkar of Uruk is locked in a rivalry with the Lord of Arata. It's a tale of power, diplomacy, and, yes, language confusion. At one point, the text describes a time when all humanity spoke a single language. Sound familiar yet? Not only is it older, but it's also eerily similar. Enki, the trickster god of Mesopotamian mythology, decides to throw humanity a curveball by confusing their language. Apparently, divine meddling with human communication was trending 1,000 years before Babel got the memo. In Enmerkar and the Lord of Arata, King Enmerkar dreams of dominating the city of Arata through unity. It's not about building a tower, but strengthening a kingdom through collective effort. A single language unites the people, making them a force to be reckoned with. But, and here's where it gets juicy, Enki steps in. The god of mischief and creation decides it's time to mix things up. Literally, he confuses humanity's language, making communication impossible and throwing their grand plans into chaos. Now, I want to acknowledge something up front. The totality of these stories is drastically different. They're not identical, and I'm not here to oversimplify. However, what we can't ignore is the pattern that's emerging. Now, we have 4 documents with striking similarities to stories in the Old Testament. The flood story in Noah, which draws from Gilgamesh, Atrahasis, and the Eridu Genesis, and now the confusion of languages in the Tower of Babel, which bears a striking resemblance to this story in Enmerkar and the Lord of Arata. And I'm certainly going to be looking for more, a lot more, because this has my interest piqued now. So, if this sounds suspiciously like the Tower of Babel, that's because it is. Except this version doesn't come with the moralizing tone. Enki's more of a let's keep it interesting kind of deity. God in Genesis, more of a stay in your place authoritarian. Seems like the Tower of Babel didn't just borrow themes, it took the whole syllabus. If plagiarism laws existed in ancient Mesopotamia, the Hebrew Bible might be in some serious legal trouble. And yet, the Bible's version is the one everyone remembers. Funny how that works, isn't it? Now let's talk architecture. While the Bible focuses on one epic tower, the Sumerians were all about ziggurats, those massive stepped temples that literally reached for the heavens. Ziggurats, like the Etemenanki in Babylon, were believed to connect the divine and human realms. Sound familiar? These cosmic mountains symbolized humanity's desire to bridge the gap between earth and heaven. Unlike the Tower of Babel, though, ziggurats weren't acts of defiance. They were religious monuments meant to honor the gods. The ziggurat tradition adds a fascinating layer to the Babel narrative. It's not just about rebellion, it's about ambition, creativity, and the eternal desire to reach something greater. Now, I'm not saying the Bible copied Mesopotamian texts. No, of course not. Maybe it was just inspired. A little light borrowing, a casual, I'll just copy your homework, but make it look different. First, the flood story gets nabbed from the Epic of Gilgamesh with help from the Eridu Genesis and the Atrahasis, and now the Tower of Babel feels like a Sumerian remix. Honestly, at this rate, I wouldn't be surprised if the Exodus story was just Moses ripping off Egyptian fan fiction. Oh, and if you want the full breakdown of how the Bible borrowed those flood stories, you can find my detailed video on it here, linked in the cards. For context, Enmerkar predates the Babel story by over 1,500 years. That's like someone in 2025 claiming they invented the wheel. But sure, let's keep pretending the Bible stories are divinely original. No Mesopotamian influences here, folks. Move along. So, next time someone brings up the Tower of Babel, kindly remind them it's not the first story of language confusion, it's just the one with better PR. Mesopotamia walked so Genesis could run. You're welcome. Let's do a quick Babel reality check. I checked out a few epic tales besides this one, and let's be real, Enmerkar and the Lord of Erida is the tower's VIP lookalike, huh? Wondering why? Oh, I'm thrilled you asked. First off, this bad boy hails from Mesopotamia, the same neck of the woods where Genesis plops the Babel fiasco, aka the land of Shinar or Sumer. Coincidence? Maybe, if you also think cats invented the internet. Second, it straight up talks about a time when the entire human race shared one language. Sounds like the "we're so unified, it's scary" motif from Babel. Except it looks like Enki got there first, folks. I should say he once again got there first because he was also there first with the flood stories. Let's not forget that. And Merkar is ancient. Ancient like this story qualifies for a senior discount. Ancient. It predates most biblical texts, giving us a peek into the cultural soup that seasoned the Hebrew Bible. Basically, it's Babel's older, cooler cousin who taught it how to break curfew. So, yeah, if you're looking for a direct Mesopotamian parallel, Enmerkar and the Lord of Arada is the OG. No tower necessary. And if you enjoy this little roast of ancient texts, hit that like button, subscribe for more sarcastic takes, and let us know which biblical story should we fact check next.